Are we live? We are live. This is Devin with In the Know Traveler. I'm also the author of the forthcoming book, 10,000 Miles with My Dead Father's Ashes. Do turn up the volume. I know that we have a habit of watching and doing things on our phone in silence in the cubicle, but break out some headphones and turn up the volume. Anyway, what we're going to be starting to cover is how to write better, more often, get projects and writing done. After 13 years of being editor-in-chief of In the Know Traveler, if there was one question that I get asked more than anything else, it's how do you get started? And before we get into sort of like the technical side of how do you get your book published and how do you get your stories up on National Geographic, really the first question is how do you get words on the page? And here's the irony of this. I spoke with my book publisher a few weeks ago. Actually, I think somewhere in between Christmas and New Year's, I had to sit down with the publisher and my editor, and it was a great conversation. But the thing that they said, you should do some sort of a podcast that's going to be helpful to other people. It's something that I've done before. And, anyway, the long story short was I thought, I'll start on New Year's Day. And that was my intention. And here it is. I think it is February 12th. What the heck? So it's taken me 42 days to do the thing that I had planned to do on January 1st. So that's the main issue, is that when people have come to me and said, hey, what can I do to appear on one of your websites? I say things like, well, write me a story. And they're like, well, what about? Well, really anything. Write me a story about travel. Write me a story about your life. Write me something that's going to be interesting. My websites have kind of a wide scope. We focus on travel. But here's the thing. Of the people who say we would like to do something to that effect, we want to write, the vast majority of people don't. Oh, hey, Belinda, good to see you. Most people don't do their writing. So anyway, the long story short is I wanted to talk a little bit about procrastination. And it was ironic, my history goes long and deep of sort of like hoping that I was going to just sit down, write the great American novel and be done with it. And it would be really easy. All I would have to do is just churn out all of these words. And the truth of the matter is, if you are a writer, if you want to be a writer, if you hope to be a writer, if you just want to write better letters to your friends on Facebook or personal notes to your grandmother, I think we're going to help you do that. But the most important thing to do and understand is, as a matter of fact, I'm going to jump all over the place, is that if you want to write, the chief element of the whole thing is that you actually have to write something, is that you have to get down with words on a paper or in your computer in front of you, and you just have to do it. You just have to keep trying. And the important thing is that you can't be too critical of yourself, no matter what it is that you write or how it is that you write. So when I say, how do you get started? Literally set an egg timer for 3 minutes and promise yourself that you're going to write a paragraph. And you start with a single word, and it can be anything. As an example, in the travel universe, which is something that I've been doing for a very, very long time. And by the way, you'd be amazed at the amount of articles that I get that are not great. They are not Shakespeare. They're not well written. They're not anything, but people, they're there. Those people are going to get published, not because they're great writers, but because they actually have articles to turn in. So my focus today is to help you get whatever it is that you want out on paper. And so I would start with an egg timer. As a matter of fact, I remember a number of years ago when I was first getting started, this is almost 20 years ago, I was having lunch with a guy who was writing for Rolling Stone. Right? So like that guy is a writer. And I'm like, well, I'm not a writer. You're a writer. And he goes, well, tell me about what you write. And we started talking about writing. And one of the things that I said to him, I said, well, I can't be a writer because what I do is I sit down and I write a sentence. And then I get up And then I walk into the kitchen and I open the refrigerator and I move some jars of mayonnaise around. And maybe I make myself a tuna fish sandwich, and maybe I don't. Maybe I close the refrigerator and then I open the pantry. And then maybe I eat a handful of crackers or something. And then maybe I'll close it. And then I'll go back down to the one sentence I had written, and I'll delete that sentence and I will rewrite the exact same sentence word for word. And I will do that thing all over again. And it may take me an hour, but I'll eventually get that paragraph down. And he said to me, "Oh, you're a writer. That's exactly what writers do." And so knowing that the process of writing is a challenging one was actually a very helpful and hopeful thing for me. Once I understood, oh, I'm not doing it wrong, I don't have to worry about getting up 12 times. The trick is that you keep writing until you hit that little brief moment of inspiration. And sometimes you sit down with that moment of inspiration, and sometimes it may take you turning over the egg timer 3 or 4 times to get something. But whether you get the inspiration or not, really most of your writing is just getting those first series of words down on a page. Again, they don't have to be perfect, because ultimately what we're going to do is what every writer does, is you get down your lousy first draft, and then once it's down, in other words, you've outlined a story, you have outlined an article, you've written something to the topic that you're attempting to write about, then you can just simply then turn it off, and then come back later and then work on the editing, which I think is probably one of the more colossally important components to this. But we're going to get to the editing portion of it at a later point. But for now, if you are writing your memoir, if you are writing a travel article, if you are writing your fiction short story, whatever it is, the most important thing is, and there isn't a way to do it wrong, is that you sit down and write every day a teeny bit. And I mean, again, we're talking about egg timer. If you're writing a novel that you anticipate is going to be 70,000 words, 250 pages, something like that, the only way to really get it done is, like, if you were to say, okay, how am I going to write a 250 page book? You're going to get overwhelmed because it's terrifying. How do you write 250 pages? I don't know. I haven't a clue. But how do you sit down and write a paragraph? That's doable. How do you write 3 sentences in a row that are all connecting to some idea leading in a particular direction? That's a manageable exercise. So part of it has to do with just wrapping around your mind that if you are writing a 250 page book, that book is going to be broken down into, let's say, 10 chapters. 10 chapters, we're talking about 25 pages. Within each one of those 25 pages, there's going to be maybe a theme that might be 2 or 3 pages. Is 2 or 3 pages possible? Yeah, 2 or 3 pages is possible. If 2 or 3 pages sounds like, wow, that sounds scary, writing 1,200 words doesn't seem comfortable to me at all, then you start with a paragraph. And if the paragraph sounds difficult, then you just write quite literally 1 sentence of what you hope your paragraph to be. Matter of fact, you can even include that title as part of your paragraph. So I'm supposed to keep these things short, and you know what the goal is? The goal is that I'm going to be doing this every single day. It's now like 2:15, but I'm hoping that we're going to keep doing this every day at maybe 1 o'clock. I think 1 o'clock I'm going to do this every single day, and I'm going to talk about writing. I'm going to talk about what it is that I did to get my book published. I'm going to talk about how to write better. We're going to talk about craft. And here's the coolest thing. I'm going to start interviewing whomever it is that I can who are writers. And I've got, the good news is I have a ton of good friends who are writers. And so we're going to be doing interviews together, and we're going to make all this thing happen. Oh, hey, James, good to see you, man. And so we're just going to talk about writing. We're going to do it every single day. My book is coming out September 18th of this year. So it's like 7 months away, but I'm promising myself that I'm going to attempt anyway to do this every single day, talk about one writing cheat, or thing that I've learned, or the kinds of things that I've seen that you don't want to be doing as a writer. And I think tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about travel writing, what makes a good travel article, what are the kinds of things that you should consider doing in terms of best practices, and the kinds of things that are like, oh no, that's a terrible idea, don't do that at all. So anyway, I hope you're going to keep joining me. If you haven't done so yet, please consider liking Devin Galladay, my little fan page here, and that will make sure that you get all the news and updates about my book. And then we're going to have a great day. I want you guys to keep writing, and keep doing what you're doing. Thanks for the thumbs up, James, and hopefully we're going to see you guys all real soon. Take care.